Now stay tuned to the following radio broadcast.
You're listening to the Victory Station, AM 1360. We're glad you chose us. Thank you.
It's Impact with the Florida Star, the largest, oldest, and most read African-American newspaper in Northeast Florida and South Georgia. And now, here's the host, the publisher of the award-winning Florida Star, Clara McLaughlin.
This is Opio, and I am speaking with Dr. UmarJohnson. He's going to be in Jacksonville. As a matter of fact, one of the big Kwanzaa events is going to be Dr. UmarJohnson. That's going to be the 28th. You've seen the commercials at the Regency Square Mall Event Planning Center. He's going to, Dr. UmarJohnson is going to bring it. The flyer is saying, "Why a trumped up White House?" And it says, "The gift and the curse." How you doing, Dr. Johnson?
Good afternoon, my brother. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you, brother. First, I wanted to get an idea of who you are. What kind of child were you? How did you get into all of this cultural stuff, particularly where it aims at helping Black people?
Good question. Professionally, I'm a doctor of clinical psychology. I attended the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine here in Philadelphia. I'm also certified school psychologist, which is my particular expertise. I studied at Millersville University, also here in Pennsylvania, and I did my principal work at Lehigh University in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, on the professional side. On the cultural and activist side, I would say that I was motivated, or my interest in working and serving my people was sparked during Black History class in the 4th and 5th grade. We had a Black History teacher, Miss Green, who I coincidentally ran into after more than 25 years a few months ago. And in that Black History class, I guess that she really sparked something inside of me that really made me love who we were as a people and motivated me to want to help restore that great glory that African folks once had. And so in the 6th grade, between the 6th and 8th grade, I think it was the 6th, my father took me to my first family reunion on his side of the family, and we were walking in the back of a church, and there was all this Frederick Douglass paraphernalia on display, books, some of his clothing, his Bible, gigantic pictures. And I asked my father, I said, "Why is all of this Frederick Douglass stuff on display?" And he said, "Because you're related to him." And that's when I found out that my father and the rest of my paternal grandmother's family were descendants of Isaac and Betsy Bailey. Grandma Betsy Abbott was born in 1774. Is the same grandmother that raised Frederick Douglass that he talks about in his autobiography. And so I think the Black History class, coupled with finding out that I was related to arguably the greatest Black leader in American history, I think that pretty much put me on my course. An educated man will cease to be a slave. It is almost impossible to control someone, to enslave someone who has mastered the ability to educate themselves, which for me is one of the motivating quotes that has really inspired me and kept me focused and motivated to build the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Academy for our boys.
Marcus Garvey. So, another incredible leader. Now, Marcus Garvey, in the book Race First, they talk deeply about Marcus Garvey's love for Black people and this huge organization, the UNIA. Talk a little bit about Marcus Garvey and how he and his struggle, and as well as the number of incredible things he did in the way of business and Black culture, how that inspired you.
Great question. One of the things that, one of the questions I always get about Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey, people are always inquisitive as to why I would name a school after two Black leaders who ideologically would have represented two different ends of the Black political philosophical spectrum. I actually take issue when folks say that, because when you really look at what Douglass stood for, it's true. He was an aggressive integrationist, a revolutionary integrationist. Marcus Garvey was a revolutionary Pan-Africanist. But if you look at what they absolutely stood for beyond the ideological Marcus Garvey speaks, people would believe it because Garvey was capable of that same type of message. And vice versa. You could take Marcus Garvey's name off of some of his greatest speeches and say Frederick Douglass wrote this, and it would absolutely be in sync with a lot of what Frederick Douglass taught. So without question, there were philosophical differences, but in principle, I think they had far more in common than they had not in common. And as far as Garvey, I would consider him the greatest black leader of the 20th century, as I would consider Frederick Douglass the greatest black leader of the 19th century. And the reason I give Garvey that title is because Marcus Garvey gave us the largest, not the largest Pan-Africanist organization, not the largest integrationist organization, not the largest cultural organization or political organization. He gave us the largest black organization, period, in the 20th century. Garvey organized 15 million Africans from all over the world, speaking several different languages, representing many different skin tones, representing many different nationalities and religions, and he was able to bring them all together under the banner of the red, black, and green flag, which was the flag that Marcus Garvey and the UNIA created to represent black people. When you look at Garvey's message from the Atlanta Federal Penitentiary, it is almost a precursor to Dr. King's message from the Birmingham jail. And so Garvey really set the platform for what black leadership should be in the second half of the 20th century, as Frederick Douglass set the platform for what black leadership should be the first half of the 20th century.
Man, this is Opio. I'm speaking to Dr. UmarJohnson. He's going to be in Jacksonville, Florida on December 28th at Regency Square Mall at the Planning Center. You do not want to miss this. Dr. Johnson, the criminal justice system has been used, particularly since right after slavery, as a tool to war and harm the black community. Talk about the criminal justice system and what you're seeing today.
Without question, I would say that the criminal justice system in America is the greatest contradiction to the illusion of equality. It is the greatest contradiction to the profession of a just society, and it is the greatest contradiction to the 13th Amendment. In America today, 1 out of every 4 black men are under some sort of supervision from the criminal justice system. And if you add child support into that, because child support has now been brought under the jurisdiction of criminal justice in most states in the United States, then you're looking at a rate of 75% of black men in this country are under some form of supervision from the criminal justice system. And when we look at crime is color-coded. People don't go to jail because they broke the law. People only go to jail when the government is interested in locking them up. Right. So it's very important that people understand that incarceration is not a function of crime. Incarceration is a function of governmental bias and selection amongst populations that they no longer want to have amongst them. Black men are deliberately targeted for incarceration. In other words, if you wanted to turn the color of prison white, all you would have to do is make drunk driving a crime that is punishable by life or death in jail. If drunk driving automatically earned you a life sentence in jail, jails would be overwhelmingly filled with white males. If white-collar crime was automatically punishable by life in jail, you would see the jails preoccupied with white males instead of black males. So it's not who's committing the crime. It's who the government chooses to target. And clearly, black men have been targeted by way of the drug industry, which is, we know, promulgated, created, and propagated by the Cocaine Import Agency, otherwise known as the Central Intelligence Agency, otherwise known as the CIA, which, ironically, was founded by a Wall Street banker. Why would a Wall Street banker have anything to do with the CIA? And it's because when people investigate the CIA, they will see that the job of the CIA, one of the jobs of the CIA, is to oversee the international drug trade. There's nothing illegal about selling drugs as long as you do it under the protection and under the permission of the United States government. And of course, the other major job that the CIA had is going into Africa to exterminate revolutionary-minded black leaders who do not want to play chess with the United States government.
Man, so let's talk a little bit about the criminal justice system as it relates to children. Now, we know that there's this major connection there, particularly where it comes to black children. They get suspended more. Black children get sent to alternative schools more. Black children get have the police officers called on them and picked up and taken into the system more.
Oh, without question. In fact, the school-to-prison industry, and it's important that we recognize it for what it is. It is an academic incarceration system. The school and prisons are not separate. Education and incarceration are both controlled at the state level. They are both regulated at the state level. They are both funded at the state level. And every state in the United States of America has consistently and significantly spent more money on incarceration in America's predominantly black cities than they have on education. If a black boy cannot read, if a black boy cannot read by the time he finishes the 5th grade, there's an 85% chance that he will spend some portion of his adulthood in prison. That is how strong a predictor reading skill is when it relates to black boys. So that's number one. Number two, we also see a relationship between the criminalization of black boys in public school and later criminalization to the criminal justice system. There was a report that was released by the United States Department of Education about 2 years ago. It was a stunning report, but none of the statistics stunned me because working in the schools as both a school psychologist now and as a school principal in the past, I've seen firsthand how black boys are deliberately targeted, and in many respects, the classroom resembles a cell, a holding block, and in many respects, the principal's office is nothing more than the warden's office. Public schools are overwhelmingly preoccupied with black boy behavior. They are not overwhelmingly preoccupied with black boy academic progress. The purpose of a school is to teach. It is not to control or patrol. Once the school begins to control and patrol and pay more attention to that than they do to the lesson planning and the instruction in the curriculum, then the school becomes nothing more than a waiting cell for the prison house.
Is it your thinking that there are a number of human rights violations that against black people, whether it's in schools or the criminal justice system, that the international community needs to understand and know about and take action on?
I would consider, without exaggerating, being perfectly honest, with no hint of exaggeration, I would call public education in America for black children a hate crime. Look at what comes from public education in America. You get mass incarceration. First, let us be clear. The mother of all crime is miseducation. The mother of all crime. Go to any jail in America. And I do a lot of work visiting the jails and keeping the inmates inspired. Go to any prison in America, and one of the commonalities you will find amongst most of the black men and women in America's prisons is most of them were miseducated. The average reading level of a black federal male inmate is 3rd grade, even if he has a high school diploma. So how is it that you can only read on the 3rd grade level, but you have a high school diploma? That means nobody bothered to teach you effective reading skill between the 4th grade and the 12th grade. That means you went 8 years. You went 8 additional years of schooling. Okay, rather 9 additional years of schooling, and yet no one ever taught you to read. And they pushed you out. They socially promoted you and gave you a degree. There can be no crime without miseducation. All crime begins in the schoolhouse. That is where crime is incubated. And if you want to reduce crime, you don't build more jails. You want to reduce crime, you don't put more police on the street. You want to reduce crime, you don't give the police more guns. You want to reduce crime, you fix the school system. The school system is the factory that produces the criminals. So miseducation is the mother of crime and incarceration, and economic castration, i.e. unemployment, is the father of all crime. When you miseducate a black man, and then you economically castrate a black man, mind you, in America today, 50% of black males are unemployed, and 75% of black teens are unemployed. Okay, so look at a situation where you obviously need to earn a living to take care of your family. You need to earn a living to put clothes on your back, a roof over their head, food in their mouth. How can you do that without a job? When America's unemployment rate goes up to 10%, America goes crazy. In fact, if their unemployment rate hits 8%, America goes crazy. But the black male unemployment rate in America has been stably at 50% and nobody has done anything about it.
Do you know what media received the first Eagle Award by the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office for being the most factual? The Florida Star. Do you know which media solely addresses issues of concern for African Americans? The Florida Star. Do you know which media carries local, state, national, and international news regarding African Americans? The Florida Star. Do you know the only media that carries a special section for our youth at home and the schedule for 3 black television networks? Now you know the Florida Star. Northeast Florida's largest, oldest, and most read African American newspaper, serving since 1951 in more than 200 locations. The Florida Star. News you can use, news you can trust. The People's Choice, striving to make a difference. Subscribe today. Call 766-8834. That's 766-8834. Pick up the Florida Star at over 200 locations, or to have it delivered, call 766-8834. The Florida Star, speaking truth to power.
Now, let's talk a little bit more about education, but let's talk about in the way of music and entertainment. Tupac, Child of a Panther, Public Enemy. You have a number of those type of groups that have politicized people, that have educated people in certain ways, but we also have that type of industry that have sent some negative out in the black community. Talk about that.
Oh, without question. And I think a distinction has to be made between hip-hop and rap. And I think that our conscious rappers, our progressively minded hip-hop artists need to do a better job of delineating their content of their music from mainstream gangster rap, because the only rap that's positive now is, or should I say is popular now, is mainstream gangster rap music, which in my opinion is nothing more than the advertising campaign for the prison industrial complex. If you look at it, all gangster rap music has 4 key messages in it. 1 is selling dope, 2 is killing other black people, 3 is smoking weed, and the 4th one is misogynistic behavior, exploiting black women. Every gangster rap song or every gangster rap album, those are the 4 elements. Now, they may rap differently, they may put the message a little bit, they may vary the message, the content might be slightly different, but the 4 messages are consistent. All our young people are hearing, and of course, parents don't do a good job of shielding our young people from this type of disrespectful, degenerative music, but all they hear is abuse women sexually, smoke weed, break the law, and kill the black man. And when you hear that every day, all day on the radio, and unfortunately, we have parents who listen to the filth in front of their children and make all types of excuses for why they let them listen to this. Music is powerful. Music conditions the unconscious. And I will be the first one to tell you that no, rappers did not create crime. Rappers did not create gang violence. Rappers did not give rise to the mass incarceration problem that we have in black America. All of that was thoroughly engineered by white America. However, what rap does, and what all rap does, what all culture does, is that it promotes the predominant elements within a culture in any particular given time. Look at a people's music, and you know where a people are in their political, economic, and social point of time. You cannot have rap gangster music being popular and have a progressive black community, because the art reflects the culture. So if the art is degenerative and unprogressive, then that means we as the people are also degenerative and unprogressive at this moment in time.
This is Opio. I'm speaking to Dr. UmarJohnson. Dr. Johnson, Fidel Castro just died. I remember seeing an interview with him. He said how much he loved black people in this country for what they did for him when he came here back in, I think it was 1959. They did not allow him to stay in a hotel in Manhattan. So he went to Hotel Teresa, where he met with Malcolm X. And that's actually where he first met Nikita Khrushchev, was right in that black hotel. And we know about Bay of Pigs and all those type of things. But Cuba happens to be this black country that does an incredible job. They've died for Africa. They've put troops on the ground over there years back. They have a great reputation when it comes to medicine around the world. Education, have one of the highest literacy rates in the world. Why does the U.S. government continue in many circles to demonize Cuba?
Well, as America has done with Haiti prior, any country that has been able to withstand the military onslaught of white supremacy will always be denigrated and benign in the public eye. And so Cuba, just like Haiti before it, was able to withstand the Bay of Pigs. Haiti was able to withstand the British, the French armies because of that, because they were able to stand toe-to-toe with American or white foreign power. They will never, ever get the type of form of respect that they deserve. However, I do think now that President Castro is dead, I think that his brother might have a little bit more of a liberal attitude towards the United States, but I would admonish him to be very careful in his dealings with the United States because he does not want to see a repeat of what happened with Muammar Gaddafi. You remember before America assassinated Gaddafi, they actually suspended international proceedings against him for the Pan Am flight bombing, which Gaddafi had pleaded innocent to. So making Gaddafi feel that America was beginning to change its attitude toward him in Libya, they suspended those proceedings, which made Gaddafi feel that maybe he could work with America, and all that was a setup for a setback. Same thing happened with Prince. Okay, when he went back to the music industry and stopped being so independent and allowed them to remaster his Purple Rain album for the 25th or 30th anniversary, and now he's gone. So, the new Castro needs to be very careful about how he deals with America, because America does not forget, and they love to psychologically disarm its victims. They love to psychologically disarm its victims so they can set you up for a setback, which is exactly what America did to black people during these past 8 years of the Obama regime.
Now, there are a couple schools of thought out there when it comes to Trump and black people. Some people saying, man, this is going to be the worst time for black people since George W. Bush. But then you got some black people saying, man, this is going to be good because black people want to fight because they don't like Trump, and we can get out there and do some things that we did not do under Barack Obama. And then there might be another thought. Donald Trump may have cornered himself into a situation where he has to help the black community as a result of some things that he said during the campaign. Where are you on this whole deal with Donald Trump and black people?
Certainly. Firstly, Donald Trump doesn't have to do anything to placate black people, as has no past president or nominee from either major party has ever had to produce anything for black people despite campaign promises, because we do not know how to hold elected officials accountable. Black America made a very bad mistake these past 8 years. We made a historic mistake, and that is making it public that we had no intention whatsoever to hold the first black president of these United States accountable for his political neglect of black America. That was a very bad mistake, because all politics is based on precedents. Just like court, all politics is based on precedents. If Obama does not have to serve the interests of black people, neither does Donald Trump. You cannot go 8 years and let a president ignore everything about your reality. He ignored miseducation. He ignored police brutality. He ignored unemployment. He ignored mass incarceration. Obama did absolutely nothing to address or change situations affecting black people. Now, we understand he cannot be president of black people. We understand he cannot change it to fix all of our problems because he did not start them. But what I do know he could have done is he could have addressed some of the issues that affect black folks, as he addressed many of the issues that affect homosexuals. President Obama gave homosexuals 3 laws. 3 laws. He even gave the police a hate crime bill against the police that increased penalties for anyone who decided to stand up and fight back against police brutality. He gave white women the Equal Pay Act. He passed historic immigration legislation. What law did black people get under Obama? We got nothing. Homosexuals got 3. The last time black people got 3 laws from the federal government was the 13th Amendment, the 14th Amendment, and the 15th Amendment, and we haven't had that since the 1860s. So clearly, we let the bill pass by, and our children are going to suffer for that. We should have known, whether it was Trump or any other Democrat to come, that America was definitely going to undergo an Obama backlash. You know this. This is a white, racist country. It has always been a white, racist country, and it will always be a white, racist country. And because of that, we should have gotten something from Obama to ease the pain of the neglect that we're going to get under the Trump administration. Now, has those who believe that it will be a good thing for us that Donald Trump is going to represent the extreme conservative wing of white racism. I'm not too optimistic about that, because when you go back to George W. Bush, he was a very aggressive and outspoken racist. He did not hide his neglect and lack of concern for black folks. Hurricane Katrina and 9/11, which both took place under George W. Bush, black people put a lot of hell during both of those aftermaths, and yet and still it did not change our political behavior. Here's the thing we got to understand. A self-hating people will never do anything for themselves unless they're forced to by their enemies. This is the problem with us. We only react. We never proact. Because in order to proact, there has to be a certain amount of love. When you look at the behavior of European Jews, Anglo-Saxons, Arabs, East Indians, they proact. They can build without anybody doing anything against them. They don't need you to keep them out of their supermarket before they build one for themselves. They don't need you to keep them out of your movie house before they build their own theater. They don't need you to miseducate the kids in your public schools before they build their own schools. They just build them because it is the natural thing to do for a culture to look out for its own best interest. The first law of human nature is self-preservation, but slavery destroyed that natural desire for self-preservation within African Americans.
Right. Yeah, I think, Dr. Johnson, that everywhere Obama showed up, gay people were right there yelling at him, making him do
exactly.
what black people
and
didn't do
that.
that.
They financed his campaign.
Right.
Not only were they in his face, okay, they also financed the campaign. And one thing black people need to understand is it's not just about voting. It is not just about voting. It is about using your money so that you can lobby for the issues that matter to you, so that when people do get elected, they have to serve your needs because they are dependent on your funding. Look at the amount of lobbyists that go to work in Washington, D.C. every day. They lobby these candidates. They lobby elected officials. They're not lobbying them with moral persuasion. They're not using conscience. They're using money. Listen, if you do this, this is what we can do for you. This is what we can do for your business. This is what we can do above the table, below the table. This is what we can do for your campaign. Black people have no political action committees that are relevant. Black people have no lobbying groups in Washington, D.C. And the other big problem we have is we refuse to leverage our vote by voting as a block. You have to vote as a block. Black people are a numerical minority in the United States. The only way a numerical minority can have its voice heard amongst a majority is to lock those votes together and vote as a block. But as long as we continue to vote schizophrenically as we have been doing since the days of FDR, neither party has to take us serious, because both of them understand that our votes are not together, and where there is no numbers, there is no strength.
This is Opio. I'm speaking to Dr. UmarJohnson, and we are running out of time. Dr. Johnson, you're going to be here in Jacksonville. Give us a couple seconds on what you're going to be talking about when you get here, December 28th.
Yes, sir. Can't wait to get back to Jackson. Third day of Kwanzaa, December the 28th. It'll be my first visit to Jacksonville, Florida since 2012. So you're looking at almost about 5 long years here. So I'm going to talk about miseducation, obviously. I want to make sure all the parents in Jacksonville, Florida understand the miseducation machine, how it operates, special ed, ADHD, retardation, autism, learning disabilities, vaccination. But most of all, I want to equip them and empower them with knowledge of their rights and strategies that they can use to more effectively champion for their children's causes within the schoolhouses of America. We're also going to talk about economics. Right now, black people are hemorrhaging billions of dollars in holiday shopping while we complain about schools, complain about a lack of jobs, complain about not having any type of infrastructure in our communities. How can you complain about it when you're wasting your money away, giving it to the same people who you claim are preventing us from being able to improve our situations? So I'm going to talk about the economic devastation in the black community. And then thirdly, I'm going to talk about political organization. Not mainstream political organization, but grassroots community organization. We are a disorganized people. And as Marcus Garvey said, any disorganized people sooner or later dies. Disorganized people will always be at the mercy of more organized peoples. Garvey said the greatest weapon used against the Negro is disorganization. So I'm going to talk about how we need to put our religious differences to the side, our political differences to the side, and how we need to come together so that we can create a better future for our children. also be talking about the upcoming second annual Dr. Umar Unapologetically African Black College and Consciousness Tour for 11 to 17-year-old black boys and girls. I'm sure there's parents in Florida who would love to have their child spend 14 days and 14 nights with Dr. Umar Johnson on the second annual Black College and Consciousness Tour. So I'm excited. Can't wait to get to Jacksonville. It's only 2 more weeks to go.
Well, I got to have you on just a couple more seconds. Clara McLaughlin just walked in, but I wanted to see if you were still raising money for that school, and I know there are some millionaires that's going to be listening to this that are from right around in this area. Are you raising money, and should they send money to you for your school?
Oh, yes, they can. Donations to the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey International Leadership Academy for Pan-African Excellence can be sent payable to SDMG Academy, P.O. Box 6872, Philadelphia, PA 19132. Again, SDMG Academy, Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Academy. Donations can be mailed to P.O. Box 6872, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania 19132. And I would also ask all the brothers and sisters who are coming out to my lecture on Wednesday, December the 28th, bring a donation, bring a check or money order donation payable to the FDMG Academy, because the school that I'm going to build is a school that we have not seen for our young men and that all of them desperately need.
Awesome. And you know we have to support that. All right, Dr. UmarJohnson, appreciate it, sir.